What's good, y'all? So as many of you guys know, this year's free agency class wasn't filled with a bunch of big names that, were going to change your franchise's direction and everything like that. There was a lot more of just guys that would help you around the edges. Of course, there were guys like, Fred VanVleet, who got a new deal. Shout out to him. Chris Middleton re-signed. Kyrie re-signed. But majority of the guys that switched teams and things like that were just role players. That doesn't make them any less important though, because if you sign the right role player that fits your team to perfection, he can take you to a whole nother level. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video, is the most underrated free agents in my opinion. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. We're going to start off with one of the first deals that actually started off free agency a few months ago. Taurean Prince going to the Lakers. Here you can see his stats from last year from when he played with the Timberwolves. I really do like this signing for the Lakers because it was a very cheap deal. He only signed a 1-year, $4.5 million deal, so not a lot of money tied up into Taurean Prince, but I do think he can outperform that contract. He gives the Lakers a good depth option at the forward position. Of course, with LeBron going into year 21, I think this is for him, being 38, 39 years old. You don't want him playing 82 games, 40 minutes a game. You're going to want to kind of do a little bit of just pullback on that, and Taurean Prince can maybe come in and start a few games like he did for the Timberwolves last year. Also, Anthony Davis, he, is notorious for having health issues, so, you just might have to slide some guys down the lineup a little bit and insert Taurean like that. Just the size, depth that he gives for them in that front court, I really do like. And I don't know if this really makes too much sense, but I feel like he's like a perfect LeBron teammate. I say that because he's a great catch-and-shoot shooter. He just shot just under 40% last season. He's also an above-average defender. I'm not saying he's an elite defender, gonna go lock up other people, but he's got the size, the strength, the quickness to guard other opposing wings. I'm not saying that they're just gonna send him on to Jason Tatum and be like, all right, lock him up, that's our game plan. But in the playoffs, when things slow down and teams kind of pick apart, and really just hone in on certain guys that can't defend, he's not one of those guys. He's not going to get picked out of a crowd to, force him to defend. He can hold his own like that. And when you can shoot, defend, and you just got a little bit of basketball IQ, you're a perfect teammate for LeBron. And I think he can really elevate this Lakers team as a high-value role player. I do also want to give a quick shout-out to Gabe Vincent, another free agent signing for the Lakers. I really like the Lakers free agency class this year, but Gabe signed a 3-year, $33 million contract, so it's about $11 mil per year, and I think that he is really going to be good for them. I think he's going to be basically an upgraded Dennis Schroeder from last season, playing that guard position, playing a decent amount of minutes some games, maybe D'Lo has the hot hand, Austin Reeves, whatever, just kind of that fluctuation role in there. But, he's got the shooting, he's scrappy on defense, he's a little smaller, so you can tell he's got that chip on his shoulder to really, hold his own and stuff like that. He could play make all around. Really like the Lakers free agency signings, especially Gabe Vincent and Taurean Prince. The next underrated free agent signing we're talking about is Seth Curry going over to Dallas. Last season he played for the Nets, and I guess he really likes Texas because he's going back to the Mavericks for the 3rd time in his career. Seth Curry signed a 2-year, $8 million contract for the Mavericks, and I think it is an incredible steal for them. I didn't live tweet too many free agent signings, as the news broke or whatever. I just kind of internalized them and was starting to think about my video that I was going to make. But for Seth Curry, when he signed, I quote tweeted it. I said this was a steal signing. I love this signing. Just off rip, I immediately fell in love with this signing. As I mentioned before, this would be Seth Curry's 3rd time playing in Dallas, and funny enough, he always plays best in Dallas. All his career numbers, they're all the highest when he plays for the Dallas Mavericks, so hopefully that'll kind of give him a little bit of a resurgence. Last year with the Nets, his minutes were cut down a little bit, so, his stats aren't they're not going to jump off the page and be, incredible stats, but his efficiency is still there. He still shot over 40% from 3 on, I think it was about 4 attempts per game. I'm sure those attempts are going to go up. He can be a great catch-and-shoot guy when guys collapse, when, Luka or Kyrie drive to the basket, or also he can come down, pin down screens and set up plays specifically for him. He's that good of a shooter. He can create by himself for when Luka or Kyrie need a possession off or on the bench or whatever. He can kind of create his own shot too. I think he is a perfect fit for the Dallas Mavericks. I talked a little bit more about him and a bunch of the other Dallas Mavericks in my video about the Dallas Mavericks. If you haven't seen that video, make sure you go check it out on my channel. And that kind of leads me into kind of like what I did with the Lakers and Gabe Vincent. I also really do like the Grant Williams signing. He just brings more shooting to them, more defense, leadership. I think he's the vice president of the NBPA, the Players Association. I'll just say like that instead of the anagram. So, you know, he's got that leadership voice, a cool locker room guy. I know he's really not close with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and all those other Celtics teammates. So I'm sure him coming over there is just going to be an all-around great addition to Dallas. Now we move on to Malik Beasley signing to the Milwaukee Bucks. Last season, he played for both the Utah Jazz and the Los Angeles Lakers. Last season, Malik Beasley had a down year shooting the ball. You know, he was shooting it great over his career. He's like a 38% three-point shooter, so he's notorious for being able to shoot the ball. Last year was not the case, though, both in Utah and when he came over to the Lakers. And when you're on the Lakers, everything is amplified times 1,000, it seems like. So everyone was on his ass. But I do think that he still has some, you know, he's got some stuff left in the tank. He could still be a quality role player in the NBA for sure. When you have a guy like Giannis on your team, shooting is probably the most important thing. You know, everyone tries to build that wall and collapse down on the paint to stop Giannis from getting there. And when that happens, you have plenty of guys on your perimeter open up. So having a shooter like Malik there, you know, of course, like I said, he had the down season. If he bounces back to that career 38% three-point shooting, wow, that is an incredible steal for the Bucks because they only signed him to a 1-year, $2.7 million. If you can get a 40% three-point shooter, only making $2.4 million, you definitely have something going for you. And then on the flip side of that, you know, Malik Beasley is notorious for being streaky. One game, you know, he'll hit 5 threes and have 20 points. The next game, he'll go 0 for 7 and have 3 points. The good thing about him being on such a cheap contract, they don't need to play him. When he was on the Lakers, they were kind of obligated a little bit because he was making $15 million. When you have that much salary tied up to a player and he's not playing, obviously, you know, people are going to chat about that, you know, about your GM, about your coach, about that player, whatever. When you're making $2.7 million, there is almost zero expectation on you, so you can go out there, freely shoot the basketball with confidence and everything like that. You know, if he gets on, great, the Bucks found a steal. If he doesn't, it's whatever. He can come in garbage time and try to get that going, you know, play in practice, whatever, but they aren't obligated to play him like the Lakers were or like the Jazz were. I guess what I'm saying is it's basically a win-win for the Bucks. You either get a great player addressing a need that you have, you know, in shooting for a cheap deal, or, you know, you try it out, it doesn't work out, and he just becomes one of your locker room guys that you have. The last free agent we're going to be talking about in this video is Georges Niang signing a deal to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Last season, he played for Philly, and he played incredible. When the Cavs traded for Donovan Mitchell, their expectations went from down here all the way up here, and in the regular season, they reached those expectations. They played great, top 4 seed in the East, which is a very hard thing to do, but they did it. Then when you made it to the playoffs, it's a completely different story. A lot of people picked them to beat my New York Knicks, and they lost in 5. You know, even me as a Knicks fan, I was saying Knicks in 6 or Knicks in 7. Not Knicks in 5. So it was a very big disappointment in the playoffs, and a big part of them losing in those playoffs was because of their shooting. Georges Niang, 40% three-point shooter. He immediately comes over and becomes one of their best three-point shooters on their roster. Great catch-and-shoot guy. And then he also addresses another big issue that they had against the Knicks, and that is they had no true power forward, or no true backup power forward, I guess I should say. They run Jared Allen and Evan Mobley together a whole lot. But the issue is, you know, they don't really have another backup center either, so they kind of have to just rotate those guys in and out. And then when they're forced to only have Evan Mobley or only Jared Allen on the court, they have like Chetty Osman running backup power forward for them, and it just forces them to be small. That allows Julius Randle to feast a little bit with his size, Mitchell Robinson to get those rebounds. Now with Georges Niang's big body, you know, the minivan they call him because he's just so solid and dense, they can have just different looks with him on the court. You know, a lineup that I am really interested in seeing is Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus, Georges Niang, and Evan Mobley. I feel like that could be incredible. Just run and gun, space and pace, just going out there and shooting the ball, getting out in transition. The one thing you might be saying about that lineup is defense, but I mean, I have faith in Evan Mobley. You know, he was just a top 3 defensive player of the year finalist in his second season, so I'm sure he's going to grow and become even better from that. I still am going to stand on this. I've said it before. Max Strus does not get enough credit for the defender he is. I think he is a solid defender. And then when you have the explosiveness of Donovan Mitchell and then Darius Garland on top of that too with the shooting around them, just that lineup right there, it's just, it's amazing. I cannot wait to see it on the court. Let me know down in the comments who you think was the most underrated free agency signing. Could be one of the ones I had in the video, could be one that I maybe forgot about. Whatever it is, make sure you leave it down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.